Hey everybody! This is a tutorial I put together to show you guys how to make your own custom swatch files so that you can have more colors to pick from. This is Photoshop's base colors that you start with. You can see that they're kind of highly saturated, kind of unhelpful, not too many colors. So using a handy tool called CSS Drive, we're going to go ahead and use some photos from the web to toss them in there and rip some palettes. Before you begin, one of the most important things you can do is build yourself a good inspiration folder. In here I collect together things that are kind of reference for armor, animals, places, environments, things like that, and examples of good color palettes. And over the years I've kind of collected stuff together from the internet, colors that work well together, colors that I want to kind of emulate in my work, and I toss them in here. And when I'm ready to go with them, I pull them up into CSS Drive, which is right here. And I've already preloaded in one of my own older images right here, so you can get an idea of kind of how it works. And you can see that running the image through, it creates this color palette down here that is essentially made by compressing down the image as if you were just lowering the resolution a ton until it's these tiny boxes that become your swatches that you can then load out into a Photoshop file. And when you click Save as Photoshop Swatches here, go ahead and downloads to your Downloads folder, and you can see it right there. So when you load up your first one, you don't necessarily want to do it by double-clicking on it, which you would want to do later, but to begin, to get rid of all these, you want to go in here and you want to do Replace Swatches. You want to grab it from Downloads, and then load it in. And then here you can see we have all the colors that just came in through there. And when you go to append ones later, it'll actually bring them down in rows below this, so your colors that worked out well kind of stay grouped together, so you don't have to worry about palettes kind of clashing and everything. Things kind of stay contained, so you can pick things that work successfully before in another piece. So if I come in here and I load up some other pieces, save out some more palettes that it creates. There we go. Now you can double click to append and they just appear right in there. So one of the things, because of the way that the thing works, palette ripper works, where it condenses things down, it'll oftentimes miss some really good colors that are in there. So when you have it as the most recent palette that you have available, and you want to go ahead and add some colors that it may have missed, it's really useful to just come in, grab some of them, and then click this button here to add a new swatch. You don't really need to name your swatches. You're going to end up with so many later on that it's not really useful to do so. So you just add it in there. So if you can spot some good colors that it kind of missed as it went, you can just add some additional guys in there. Oh, I kind of missed it. There we go. So now that we have a collection of them that's kind of put together here, if you wanted to make a collection of a specific type of color palette, you could go ahead and save these out. You can save them as test swatches. And that way, if you wanted to replace them with another set that you've pre-made, you could go ahead and just load those up as a replace so that you could just swap them out entirely. In my case, I don't particularly like to work that way. I typically like to just kind of have everything in a master swatch file, which you can see here. This is my master swatch file right here. This master swatch file was created from about 100 different images that I collected over the years. And honestly, when I'm working, I just kind of like to scroll through, and when I find the color that kind of hits me, I just grab it and go. It works really well with your workflow if you're just looking for something that you can you can grab immediately and toss in there, and it gives you a good collection of things that have already worked successfully to pick from. And lastly, having a collection of swatches to pick from is all well and good, but sometimes you need to eyeball things from reference, and that's where this guy comes in, Coolerus. Coolerus is a really neat color picker replacer for Photoshop. It does cost money. I think it's a $15 fee to buy it, but there is a free trial for it. And it has a really neat color ring to allow you to select from that's all kind of in one interface here. You can change the color modes between RGB. You know, there's color harmonies that are set up on here that can rotate around. And the other really cool thing that it has that's kind of similar to how you work traditionally is it does gamut mapping. So with the gamut maps, you can actually set a shape, and then you can modify your gamut maps by pulling around the sliders on things. And this way you can give yourself a locked color palette, so you're limited in what you can do, and it gives yourself an additional challenge. It's pretty neat. And this is the combination that I primarily use to do all of my work. I find that it is really handy to kind of have a collection of things on hand, and then also have a good way to be able to color pick as you go.